Minute. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, better. Thank you. Sorry, my voice was echoing. Yes, guys, I've sent the invite to our pro learners. Please join. The previous class, we discussed the main verbs and the auxiliary verbs. We'll continue with the auxiliary verbs and also learn the modal verbs in this particular topic. Okay. We'll just wait for a minute or two, allow everyone to join and then start. Can anyone tell me what are modal verbs? We've discussed the auxiliaries, or just do a recap. What is an auxiliary verb? Can someone tell me what is an auxiliary verb? We discussed the auxiliary verbs in the previous class. What is an auxiliary verb, guys?
Auxiliary verbs say which enhance the verb, which help the verb to enhance
Main verb.
its main
Help
verb,
the
yes.
main verb, yes, which help the main verb and convey the meaning, absolutely. So what is a modal verb? Auxiliary verb, we understand, is a helping verb, okay? When there is no, so the auxiliary verbs, they cannot stand on its own, right? So you need a help, you need a main verb. When the auxiliaries are the only verb in the sentence, we understand that that is not an auxiliary, that becomes a main verb, okay? So if you're talking specifically about auxiliary verbs, there has to be a main verb in the sentence. And then my question is, what is a modal verb? Guys, anyone? What is a modal verb? We've discussed it in the past as well. Just give me a minute. Still adding some of our learners.
I think, sir, it shows us the probability of a work.
Yeah, probability, possibility, yes, prediction, your intention, yes, lot of different things. Modal verbs basically show the modality of something, right? So modality is nothing but, what is the meaning of the word modality? Modality means what? The model quality or model quality of something means what? A particular mode in which something exists, is experienced or expressed. Simple, okay? या तो कुछ है, या तो आपने महसूस किया है, experience किया है, या तो express किया है. That's called modality, okay? Model quality of something, basically, okay? So that's what we relate to the modal verbs. Modal verbs comes from the word modality, okay? It shows modality, basically. So it shows different aspects, like someone just mentioned. Probability, possibility, then you have your intention, prediction, okay, likelihood, ability, permission, capacity, suggestion, obligation, advice. These are different things that are showcased, or that to convey these we use the modal verbs. Okay, let's start with the first one. Ajanta, go ahead, read the first slide.
Yes, sir. Auxiliary verbs. The verbs be, am, is, was, have, and do, when used with the ordinary verbs to make tenses, passive forms, questions, and negatives, are called auxiliary verbs or auxiliaries. Auxiliary means helping. Modal verbs. The verbs can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must, and ought are called modal verbs or modals. They are used before ordinary verbs and express meanings such as permission, possibility, certainly, and necessity. Need and dare can also sometimes be used like modal verbs.
Good, very good. Just give me a minute, guys. Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry. To confirm a particular appointment. Yes, so modal verbs here, as we just mentioned here, are called something that is used to express permission, possibility, certainty, necessity, need, dare, can sometimes be used in modal verbs as well. Auxiliary verbs are, am, is, was here, have, and do when used with ordinary verbs to make tenses, passive forms, something that we questions and negatives, something that we discussed in the previous class, right? So one is a helping word, the other one indicates the aspects mentioned here. Okay, we call them model auxiliaries as well. Okay, model auxiliary is also what it is called. So like words like should, could, would, okay, may, might, these are all modal verbs. We'll look at some examples. Okay. Z, go ahead, read the next slide.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, these are the ones mentioned here: can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must, ought, modal verbs. Okay, go ahead.
The auxiliary be and its form is are used first in the information of continuous tenses. Example: he is working, I was writing. Second, in the formation of the passive. Example: the doors were opened. Third, be formed by the infinitive is used first to indicate a plan, arrangement or agreement. Example: I am to see him tomorrow. Second, to denote command. Example: you are to write your name at the top of each sheet of paper.
Good. So the auxiliary form here, be, is used here. Basically, be basically means what? Exists, something that exists. Okay, something that happened. So is, am, are used. So for example, here in the first example is given in the formation of continuous tenses. Now in this case, he is working. What is the be form? Is, right? I was working, I was writing, was. Okay, so that's the thing here. The other sentence, in the formation of the passive, the doors were opened. Were is the auxiliary in this case. Why? Because that indicates what? It indicates action, right? So were, the auxiliary, the helping, and then opened, obviously. So be followed by the infinitive is used to indicate a plan, arrangement or agreement. जैसे हम कहते हैं I am to see him tomorrow. इसका मतलब क्या है? I will meet him tomorrow. Basically means I will see him tomorrow. I will meet him tomorrow. I am to, or to denote command. You are to write your name on top of each sheet of paper. ये command मतलब क्या है? Instruction है. जैसे examination के वक्त में, right? You know, the examiner gives you the instructions, the invigilator, right? Gives you the instructions. You have to write your name on top of each sheet of paper. Basically to denote command. मतलब इसको आप rephrase भी कर सकते हैं इस sentence को. You can rephrase and say you have to write your name at the top of each sheet of paper. That's fine as well. Or you are to write your name at the top of each sheet of paper. Either way around means the same. So auxiliaries are used as helping verbs. Okay, when there is a helping verb, means there has to be what? There has to be a main verb as well. So that's the thing. Here we are talking about the auxiliaries, and we'll also look at the modal auxiliaries. Okay. All right. Let's continue with Dhananjay. Go ahead. Read the next slide.
I finished this lesson yesterday, but I couldn't because of the flu. I have to finish.
Yesterday नहीं हो सकता है ना have के साथ. Past
Sorry,
tense
sorry.
में.
Yeah. So yeah, I was to finish. I was to finish this lesson yesterday, but I couldn't because of the flu.
इसको या तो आप कह सकते हैं I had to finish this lesson yesterday, or I was to finish the lesson yesterday. Okay, both are fine. Both are grammatically correct in this case. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Go ahead, Dhananjay. Read the next slide as well.
The delicious meal.
Delicious.
Delicious meal by every day. Delicious meal by was
Devoured. Basically,
devoured.
yeah, devoured. What is the meaning of the word devoured, guys? Anyone?
Was devoured.
To devour basically means to enjoy a particular meal. Okay, so basically something that you consume when you are pretty hungry, or something that you eat very quickly. जब भूख लगती है तो we sometimes eat very quickly, right? Very fast. So devour basically means to eat hungrily or quickly. Basically, when someone's obviously hungry, you sometimes happens we kind of eat with great intent. So here the meaning is the delicious meal was devoured by everybody. Basically, was eaten very quickly, or everyone was very hungry and they ate the food, or basically they finished everything. Okay, that's what it means, right? Okay, thank you. Let's continue. Deepika, can you read the next slide, please? Deepika, can you hear me? Yes, got disconnected. Jaspreet, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Go ahead, read the next slide.
Yes, sir. The auxiliary have is used in the formation of the perfect tenses. Example, he has worked. Have to is used with the infinitive to indicate obligation. I have to be there. The past form had to is used to express obligation in the past. Example, I had to be there by 5 o'clock. Word usage in the negative sentences and questions have to and had to are used with do, does, did. They have to go. They don't have to go. Do they have to go? Yes, sir.
The auxiliary have is used in the formation of the perfect tenses. Yes, absolutely. So have we discussed in the previous during the previous class as well, where we use be first, then have, then when we use the auxiliary do when we ask questions or to emphasize something. Here, obviously, the first sentence in the information of the perfect tenses, he has worked. What tense is that? Present perfect tense, right? The past participle of the have. So he has worked. He has worked in this company since 2010, for example. So present perfect tense, still ongoing. Have to is used with the infinitive to indicate an obligation. What is the meaning of obligation? Jaspreet, what is the meaning of the word obligation?
Yes, sir. Duty, responsibilities.
Absolutely, very good. Obligation, something that you have to do. करना ही है आपको. So there's an obligation that you have to complete the task within the number of hours. So that's an obligation. So I have to be there. मुझे वहाँ रहना है. So that's an obligation. The past form of had to is used to express obligation in the past. I had to be there by 5. मतलब मुझे 5 बजे तक वहाँ पर पहुँचना था, but मैं नहीं पहुँच पाया, possibly. Okay. So have and had to used in different tenses. One in the present context, the other in the past context. The word usage in negative sentences and questions. Okay, have to and had to are used with do, does, this. They have to go. They don't have to go. Do they have to go? So, जब आप question पूछते हो, obviously you'll have to use the auxiliary at the start of the sentence here. In this case, do they have to go? They have to go is a statement. They don't have to go, again a statement. The last one is a question. We look at some more questions when we look at the auxiliary do. Okay, everyone's on the same page, hopefully. Any doubts till now, please feel free to ask. I'll quickly do a recap because some of our learners just joined. So if you've missed out, the topic that we are doing today is the continuation of the previous topic where we discussed the main verbs and the auxiliary verbs. Now we are discussing the auxiliary verbs and the auxiliary modal verbs, basically. Okay, modal verbs are nothing but they show different possibilities, permission, certainty, necessity, obligation, etc. And auxiliary verbs are helping verbs which we discussed. Okay, started with the auxiliary. The first one was be. Be basically means to exist. He is working. Okay, I was writing, for example. मतलब ये हो रहा है. You are indicating that something is happening. All right. In the passive forms as well, the doors were opened. When you use it with the infinitive, I have to see him tomorrow. I am to see him tomorrow. Both have the same meaning. You can use whatever you feel free to. Okay. Then we discuss the. Sorry.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Sorry, I thought you had a question. Yes. Then we discussed the auxiliary have. Okay. In the previous class, we discussed briefly. This is a detailed kind of an explanation when we use with infinitive, when we use with the perfect tenses, and when we use in the positive, negative sentences, depending on the tense, present tense, past tense. Okay. Next, we'll be discussing the auxiliary do with the questions. Okay. Aryan, go ahead, read this slide.
The auxiliary do is used first to form the negative and interrogative of the simple present and a simple past tense of ordinary verbs. Example A, we works, he doesn't works. Does he
Doesn't
work?
work. He doesn't work.
He doesn't work. Does he work? Note, we do not add s and or es after the verb with does. B. He worked. He didn't work. He did he work?
Question.
Note, we do not use past form with of verb with did not and did. Second, to avoid repetition
Repetition.
of a previous ordinary verb. Example, do you know him? Yes, I do. Instead of yes, I know him. Third, do you also use to emphasize the affirmative nature of a statement? Example, you do look pale. Fourth, in the imperative, do make a request or invitation more persuasive. Persuasive. Example, oh, do come, it's going to be such fun.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah. So the auxiliary do can be used in multiple ways. That's why so many examples. Yes, we use do to emphasize. We use do to do does, to emphasize, to ask questions, different ways when you. So the question and the emphasis part is pretty clear. But here, one of the things mentioned here is he works, he doesn't work, does he work? Note, we do not add s after the verb with does, obviously, because does, okay? Does he works will be grammatically incorrect. The form is incorrect. So that's why does he work. And if it is plural, do they work? Does he work? Do they work? Okay. Plural singular. The second thing mentioned, one of the things mentioned here is you do look pale. Okay. So here, even if I say you look pale, it's fine. Pale basically means fika, colorless. Someone who is, someone who is probably not feeling well, or someone who has colors change. चेहरे का रंग बदल गया जिसे कहते हैं हिंदी में. That's called pale. Okay. So here in this case, you do look pale basically means even if I say you look pale, that's fine. But if I'm emphasizing an affirmative sentence, the affirmative sentence is what? A positive sentence. So that's what do is used here. Look is obviously look is used here as the verb. Pale is here used as the adjective in this case. Okay. So you do look pale to emphasize it. To avoid repetition in a previous ordinary verb. Of a previous ordinary verb, like question tags we had discussed during the previous class. Here, similarly, do you know him? यहाँ पर next sentence में अगर आप जवाब दे रहे हो, yes, I do know him, is not needed. Or yes, I know him is fine, but you can make it short and just say yes, I do. ये एक तरह से आप paraphrase कर रहे हो, respond कर रहे हो किसी के सवाल का कि do you know him? Yes, I do. So you are stating with a certain degree of authority and confidence that yes, I do know him. Will you be able? Will you complete the task? Will you be able to complete the task by tomorrow? What should be the reply? Yes, I will. Okay. So that's how this is the similar example. Okay, where you don't need to repeat. Yes, I will be able to complete the task by tomorrow. Not needed. You can omit that. Just say yes, I will. Okay. Can you visit the? Can you come tomorrow? Can you visit us tomorrow? Yes, I can. Yes, I can come and visit tomorrow. Yes, I can come tomorrow. Not needed. So repetition को avoid करने के लिए we just because the context is known, आपको पता है आप किस चीज के बारे में बात कर रहे हो, then we avoid the repetition. In the imperatives, do makes a request or invitation more persuasive. What is the meaning of persuasive? What is the meaning of the word persuasive, guys? Convincing.
It has also same meaning like emphasis, I think. Emphasis, I think.
No, convincing. Convincing. This is slightly different, similar to emphasizing, but here this is more compelling and more convincing, basically. So more forceful. So, oh, do come. It's going to be such fun. Yes, this is similar to emphasizing. However, the difference is that when I say, oh, do come, I am kind of persuading someone. And I'm, in a way, emphasizing on the fact that it'll be good if the person comes. Okay. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm persuading. किसी को persuade करना, किसी को basically उत्तेजना जिसे कहते हैं, right? प्रेरणा देना या convince someone to come and do something basically means to persuade someone. So the three things discussed, a lot of things discussed here about do. So do
Sir,
is
can we
probably,
say?
yeah.
Can we say encourage someone?
Encourage someone, yes, but persuasion, yeah, persuasion can be encouraging as well. Yes, yes, that's fine. You can encourage someone, you can convince someone, and basically you can compel someone to do
Sir,
something. Okay.
Motivate
attractive,
someone.
sir.
Sorry,
Attractive.
what is your question? I didn't understand your question.
Sir, persuasive मतलब attractive.
No, that's not right. Persuasive, to persuade someone does not mean to attract someone. That is a different word. Persuade means to convince someone. Okay. To impress
Can
someone.
it be motivation? Motivation.
It's not motivation is a different word. Motivation is when you are encouraging someone to do something. That's why encourage and persuade are two different words. That's why they are not synonyms. Although they sound similar, they come across as similar, there is a difference. Persuading
sir.
someone is to coerce someone to do something, to convince someone to do something.
बाध्य करना किसी को in Hindi we can say.
I don't know the word in Hindi, but if that's the word. But to motivate someone and to encourage someone basically means that the person could be completely down and out, and you are boosting the morale of someone. So persuasion is different.
Why I used motivation or encourage here means, sir, for example, in this sentence, if that person is an introvert, for example, we are telling him that you should not be indoors. You do come. It will be a great fun like that. In that context, we can understand encourage or motivation.
Yeah, that's fine. You can look at it that way. But the difference, I'll give you an example why the words persuasive and encouragement are different. When you persuade someone means what? Means that something is already existing. This, when you look at this sentence, oh, do come, it's going to be such fun. Iska matlab kya hai? It means that the event that is about to happen, that event is already decided. Correct? Correct? Yes or no?
Sir.
Yes. When I persuade someone
sir.
to, let's say, when I compel someone or when I compel someone to sign a piece of paper as an agreement, means what? The agreement already exists, right? When I force someone to do something, means that particular thing already exists. But when we talk about motivation or encouragement, that means that it probably does not exist. Someone can be completely down and out, or someone just does not want to do something, and that something is not existing right now. That's when
we use should or must for compelling someone, no sir, not auxiliary, like you must sign here, you should do that one, you must do that one, means we use the modal verbs, no sir.
No, that's not necessary. That's not necessary. You can use the modal verbs, but that does not mean that you cannot use do in that case. I am inviting you for a particular party and the party is already going to happen, and I'm trying to convince you, oh, please do come. You must have heard this. Oh, please do come.
Then there is a please. It's not a force, no sir.
Yeah, I'm convincing in a polite manner. Oh, please do come. Who's that? The persuasion does not mean that it has to be a forced persuasion. If you are under the impression that persuading something means forceful, that is not necessary. Although persuasion and forceful are two synonyms, but it does not mean that every time you're trying to persuade someone means you're forcing someone to do something. So your question about using the modal verb is right and do is incorrect, that's wrong. You can use do as well, is the point that I'm making. To persuade someone. You can use the modal verb, but it's not incorrect to use do in this case. As I mentioned, in this sentence, it's a very good sentence. In the imperative, do make a request, or this is a request. When you look at this, do makes a request or an invitation more persuasive. Means I have already requested you to attend the party. I am just persuading you to do that. That does not mean I'm forcing you to attend the party. I've already sent the invitation to my friends, and I'm to one of my friends, and I'm telling him, please do come. Means I'm making my request a little more persuasive. You got it? The difference?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. An existing invitation or request made more persuasive by the usage of auxiliary do. Your models are fine. Model you can use, but here it's a different matter altogether. Okay. So that's why persuasion does not necessarily mean it has to be coerced or it has to be forced. It can also act upon an existing invitation or invitation. That's what it means. Okay.
This is a completely new point, sir.
Yeah, that's why I highlighted it. So that's why, yes, this is the way you can use do for existing request or invitation as well. So good you asked the question. It helps everyone clear the doubt. Meera, go ahead, read the next slide. Meera, you're on mute. Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. This any sense, please consider refreshing it.
This doesn't make any
Make
sense. Read the sentence again.
this doesn't make any sense. Please consider refreshing it.
Rephrasing it. What is the meaning of this
Phrasing.
sentence? ये दो sentences का मतलब क्या है? What does it mean?
It does not make any. ये मतलब इसका कोई मतलब नहीं निकलता है. प्लीज कंसिडर रिफ्रेजिंग इट. इसको दोबारा से मीन्स रिफ्रेज
कहो.
करो.
या इसको दोबारा से phrase करो means इसको rephrase करो. That's what it means.
Edit करो.
Edit karo, rephrase, or say something which you've written, you need to edit it, or you need to say it in another way, which becomes, maybe what you've said makes sense, but the other person is not able to understand. Okay, so that's why he's asking you to rephrase it. So the same sentence, like the previous sentence we discussed, oh, do come, it's going to be fun, or you do look pale, or, the previous sentence here that we discussed was that. There's some sentences that I forgot which one. We can rephrase, if we want to convey the same thing in another way, I can rephrase the sentence to make it a little easier for the person who is trying to understand or the listener to understand if I rephrase the sentence. Simple. जो लिखा है उसको बदलो, basically. This doesn't make sense. Do doesn't. Here it's used as the negative. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's continue. Bipul, go ahead, read the next slide. Bipul, can you hear me? Bipul, आप mute पर हो. I'm unable to hear you. Okay, I'll come back to you. Ankita, go ahead, read this slide.
Sir, I am unable to see the screen.
What page are you on?
Page 1 of 1.
No, then that's wrong. You need to reconnect because we are on page 8.
I tried 2 to 3 times. I tried, but not able
Okay.
to see.
Log out from the app once and log it again. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Karthik, go ahead, read this slide, this sentence.
Many of us do like fast food for lunch.
Yeah, again, is here used emphasis to, to emphasize on the point. Even if I just say many of us like fast food for lunch, it's fine. But maybe there are options presented.
I don't agree with this sentence.
It's fine.
I don't agree with this statement, sir.
Well, why don't you agree with the sentence?
Fast food they eat for snacks or breakfast. They don't eat for lunch, I think.
No, not necessary. Fast food is probably the most common food had in the US for lunch. And even in India, people eat sandwiches and fast food covers a lot of things, Fast food covers some pretty heavy items as well in India. I mean, people consider, a club sandwich a double, or a dosa as well as fast food sometimes. But it is, or a pav bhaji as a fast food, but it's still pretty heavy, isn't it? Is as good as a meal. So that's why it's correct. Many of us do like fast food for lunch. So basically the person is saying that rather than having a complete meal or a heavy meal, we prefer having fast food for lunch. That's what the speaker is referring to. Nothing wrong with that. Let's continue. Dipali, go ahead, read the next slide.
Bike.
Dipali, your voice is not very clear. Be a little louder. थोड़ा जोर से पढ़िए.
Fourth one, sir. A bike doesn't cost much.
A bike doesn't cost much. Yes. Maybe the sentence, the speaker is referring to a car costs a lot, but a bike doesn't cost much. Okay. The other Dipali, go ahead, read the next slide.
Will you go with me? No, I won't. Second one, sir.
Absolutely. You don't say no, I am not, no, I don't, no, I aren't, I won't. Will, won't. Okay. Will you go with me? क्या आप मेरे साथ जाओगे? No, I won't. Okay.
Sir, in this question, we cannot ask, will you come with me?
Meaning changes.
Okay.
Meaning might change, may or may not change. I can say the same thing would say when let's say the person has already decided to go. Okay. when the person has already decided to go, I'm asking, okay, will you go with me to a particular event? When, let's say, this person has decided to attend a particular event or decided to go there. When the person is actually in the, let's say, when the person is actually going to that particular place, you can also say this, will you go with me? When you come with me, when a person is probably coming to a particular place. So go and come can be used both ways, interchangeably, depending on what you're trying to convey. But the meaning will stay the same. In this sentence, the answer will stay the same. Will you come with me? I won't. Will you go with me? I won't. But you can use it the other way around. Will you come with me is fine. Will you go with me is also fine. Maybe depending on your context, where you are going somewhere literally at that point of time, you can say, will you go with me? That's how you can use it. But both
why
are.
I asked means, will you go with him is okay, sir. Will you go with me is sounding somewhat strange.
No, why
Will you
not?
go
I'm
with
going
him?
somewhere. I'm going somewhere. I'm asking you to join me. Why not? What's wrong with that?
Okay.
What is? Oh, there's nothing wrong in saying that I'm going somewhere. I'm going to the supermarket. Will you go with me? It's fine. You can say, will you come with me? Okay, I'm going to the supermarket. Will you come with me? It's fine. मेरे साथ चलोगे या मेरे साथ जाओगे? Both mean actually the same thing, But the context might be different when, let's say, a person is in the process of going right now, going somewhere, or maybe the person is deciding and not yet decided to go somewhere. Let's say I've decided on a trip to, to Shimla. I am planning a trip to Shimla. Will you go with me? Because I am not yet decided, I cannot say, will you come with me, right? That is something when I've already decided that I'm going, will you come with me? But I have not decided, I haven't even booked the tickets. Can I say, will you come with me? The better way will be, will you go with me? If I do,
If everything is planned, then we can use come, sir.
I think so, yes, because you have already decided to go somewhere. But maybe you are in the process of planning, and my decision will be based on the fact whether you agree or whether I have company or no. Then in that case, this is probably, according to me, a better way to use the sentence, will you go with me? Will you go with me if I decide to book the tickets, for example? Okay, if I decide. So yeah, something probably is undecided, I might, prefer to use this, but the choice is yours. Even in that sense, even if you've planned and if you want to say, will you go with me, it's fine. The choice is yours. But what I'm trying to say is that the meaning stays the same. The usage is not incorrect. Go and come both can be used in this kind of context. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Ajanta, go ahead, read the next slide.
You used to stay up all night and study. Didn't you?
You used to stay up all night and study, didn't you? Yes, this is a question tag. Yeah. Here it is understood that you are talking about when I say you used to study up all night and study means you did stay up all night and study. That's what it means. So it is understood here in this case. Used to is here replaced, has replaced the you used to stay up. मतलब आप रात भर जाग के पढ़ाई करते थे, didn't you? Basically, is used here as the question tag in this case. Okay, didn't you? Okay. So the positive word you used to, the negative question tag, didn't you? Okay. I'm just asking the person and confirming basically. मैं confirm कर रहा हूँ कि आप रात भर जाके पढ़ाई करते थे या नहीं. Okay. I'm just confirming this. Okay. Dhananjay, go ahead, read the next slide.
Can, could, they usually express
Modal verbs.
ability or capacity. Example, can you lift the box? I could lift this bag when I was young.
Past ability है वो. Okay. Not just ability, just make a note, that is a past ability. Past ability meaning past में आप कुछ कर पाते थे. So I could lift this bag when I was young. I am unable to do it, or I cannot do it now. I used to do it when I was young. Go ahead, read the next one.
Might. May is used to formally to express possibility in affirmative sentences. Example, it may rain tomorrow.
Rain.
बारिश हो सकता है. Yes, sir. कल.
Yeah, was clear. Yeah, that's fine. May. So may is used formally to express possibility in affirmative sentences. It may rain tomorrow. We'll look at may and might. What is the difference? Okay. So the first one, can and could. You can do something. Ability, capacity. I could lift this bag when I was young. I could swim. I could run 100 meters in, whatever seconds when I was young. I could swim long distances when I was young. I could run many miles when I was young. So basically, or when I was 10 or 11 or 12, when I was 18. So here, basically, you're talking about someone's past ability. May and might, possibility, affirmative sentences. Z, go ahead, read the next slide.
Sir, only one question, sir. If I say like, I can come tomorrow, this sentence is in present or future, sir?
Sentences in the present context.
So can we use can to talk about future like that?
You use will in that case. I will come tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Can is used only in the present tense, sir?
Yes, right now. Yes. I can do something in the present tense. Yes.
Sir,
sir.
may,
Thank you.
might, when you use, sir?
Sorry?
May, might.
I'll explain that. Go ahead, Z, read the next slide.
Shall, should. First, shall is used in the first person to express pure future. It is also used in the second. Also used in the second and third person to express a command, a promise, or a threat. Example: first, you shall have a holiday tomorrow. Promise. Second, you shall be punished. A threat. Second, should is used in all persons to express duty or obligation. Example: you should obey the laws. D. Will, would. Will is used to express a volition, personal will, a characteristic, habit, an assumption or probability, and even an innovation or a request. Example: first, I will carry your books means I am willing to. Second, will you have tea? Invitation. Third, that will be the postman, I think. Assumption.
Okay. So the question that was asked earlier, before we continue with the slide, was what is the difference, guys, between may and might?
Sir, both are same, sir. But may has a little more high chances of happening, whereas might means less chances of happening than may.
So it may rain tomorrow and it might rain tomorrow. Both are fine, but it is all about the possibility. Which one is? Yeah. So may is a little more stronger than might. Correct. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, it's kind of similar. But obviously, the difference is that may is a little more stronger
And
compared
nowadays,
to might.
sir, no one is using may. Everyone is using might only.
I don't know the reason for that. Maybe not used to using may. Might is probably a little more common word to use. More common modal verb that is used. That's why might. I might come tomorrow. I may come tomorrow. The difference. There is a difference. When I say I might come tomorrow, the possibility is a little lesser compared to when I say I may come tomorrow. So when you are a little more sure, don't use might. Then that's a mistake. If you're a little more sure, if you are like say more than 50% sure about the fact or about something that you're going to do, use may. Prefer may over might. Okay. Here shall and should. Okay? Shall and should are used in multiple ways. We've discussed in the past. You shall have a holiday tomorrow. That's a promise. You shall be punished. It's a threat. So two different emotions conveyed here. Two different modalities here. Okay. One is a punishment. One is a threat. You should. Should is used in all persons to express duty or obligation. You should. You should obey the laws. You ought to obey the laws. What is the difference between the two sentences? Both are similar. You should obey the laws. You ought to. Ought to is a little more stronger, possibly. Okay. Will and would we've discussed. It's used in multiple ways here. Some of the explanation given here is to express a volition. Volition is a personal will. Okay. Personal will. Volition. A characteristic, habit, an assumption, something that you assume, a probability, and even an invitation or a request. I will carry your books, meaning I am willing to do something. Okay. Will you have tea? Invitation, offer. That will be the postman, I think. Assumption. You are not sure about it. So you are assuming. Ho sakta hai, nahi bhi ho sakta hai. Will and would used again in multiple ways. Okay. All right. Just give me a minute, guys. Need to quickly. Yeah. So yeah, two things we discussed. One is may, higher possibility, might, slight possibility. Okay. So let's say when you use an example like, let's say in this sentence, he might win a prize, but I doubt it. In this sentence, might is a preferred choice. If you say he may win a prize, but I doubt it, that probably is not right, because on one hand you are saying that I doubt it, means the fact that the possibility is remote, is less compared to, is highly unlikely that the person might win. You are already stating that. So when you are using these kind of sentences, I may come tomorrow, but I doubt it. No, then the better option is I might come tomorrow, but I doubt it. He might arrive, the guests might arrive tomorrow, but I doubt it. Okay, so might is a preferred choice rather than saying the guest may arrive tomorrow, but I doubt it. Okay, so you always use, whenever the possibility is lesser, then use might. Whenever there is a slight possibility, so we can say that possibly, may is used more in a positive way rather than might. Okay, so may is used in a more positive intent, with a more positive intent than might. And here will and would, shall and should, multiple ways. Please feel free to ask. I'm not going in details because we've discussed the modal verbs in the past, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. This is actually a very good topic for our new learners who have not done the modal verbs in the past. You all can practice this in your free time as well, where all the modal verbs are covered with examples. So do it in your free time. We have other topics which has only exercises, but this kind of introduces the topic. So it's a good topic for our learners who are new to the platform and who haven't done the modal verbs in the past. Okay. All right, let's continue.
What's the
But
difference
it's
between would
really
and may?
difficult to cover auxiliary verbs and modal verbs in one class, sir.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. That's why the auxiliary words were only 3 or 4 with the explanation. But yeah, it's difficult. Sorry, Tarub, you're asking a question.
What's the difference between would and may?
You give me a sentence. Give me a sentence with would. Would will be used in your as a conditional sentence or the past tense of will. Give me one sentence, whatever you comes to mind. Give me a sentence with would.
I don't know, sir.
Okay, let's say I would love to work in the United States. I would love to work in Europe. What have I used would here as? As a hope, conjecture, or hope. Okay, this is your hope that you would want to, or this is your willingness, or this is something that you aspire to. I would love to work in the West or in the US someday. Okay, that's how I can use would in this case. Or if it was in the past tense, you can say, let's say he said, or my friend said he would meet me tomorrow. Okay, this is how we use would. Okay, or in the past tense, he said he would be on holidays for a couple of, or he would be on leaves for a couple of days. Okay, or he would be away for a couple of days. This is how you use would in the past tense of will. What was the other word that you gave me?
May, sir.
Sir, would you
May
like?
or might.
Give me a minute, Dipali. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Let me clarify a doubt. You can ask your question later. Okay, just give me a minute. What was the other modal verb, Taru?
May or might.
May and might are completely different. Completely different in this case. May and might is talking about possibilities. Okay, possibilities. Here, when you are talking about would is used in completely different sense altogether. Would can be used like one of the examples that I shared. The other, you can use it in a conditional way. He would lose his job if he were identified or if he were caught, for example. So here you can use in an imagined situation in a conditional mood. Or if you're making a polite request, consent, opinion. So that's different. So would and may are used in completely different ways. May and might are, you can look at it together when you're talking about possibility and slight possibility. May is a higher possibility, might is a lesser possibility. Would is a completely different thing. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So would is used here as assumption, probability, and an invitation to a request. Yes, Dipali, what was your question?
Sir, would you like tea or coffee?
So
I
more
would
question.
like tea.
Yeah, that's fine. That is used here as an invitation or a request.
Sorry.
You're offering something.
Okay, I would like tea. Is my correct, sir?
Sentence is correct. I would prefer T. That's fine. That's correct. Correct sentence.
Okay, sir.
Deepika, can you hear me? Deepika, you're on mute. Yeah. Go ahead. Read the
Yes,
next slide.
yes,
Yeah.
sir. He must is used to express a necessity or obligation. It refers to the present near future. Example: I must visit my aunt Sally. She has not been feeling well since 3 days. To talk about the past, we use had to. The past form to of have to. Must has no past form. Example: yesterday we had to get up early.
Yeah. Just a minute. Now, in this case, if you want to use it like, in the past tense, then you would probably say, I must visit my Aunt Sally. If you want to say this, in the past, like, I had to visit my Aunt Sally. If you want to use it the other way, using must, because must has no past form, you use the other word in the past form. Like, for example, I should have, or I must have, or I should have visited my aunt. Okay, that is how you can form the sentence. Go ahead, read the note.
Sir. Not must is often used when the obligation comes from the speaker, when the obligation comes from somewhere else. Have to is often used. Second, must can also be used to express logical
Certainty.
certainty. Example for living in such crowded conditions must be difficult, implying I am sure it is difficult.
Very good. Thank you. So yes, must has no past form. So if I want to say I must have visited my Aunt Sally, the better way of saying that is I should have visited my Aunt Sally. She has not been, Sally, she has not been feeling well since 3 days. So if you want to use the past tense, you should have visited, or simply use this. Yesterday we had to get up early. Yesterday we should have got up early. Yesterday we had to get up early is used here as the past form. You cannot say yesterday we must had to get up early. That is not the way you use it. So that's what the explanation given here, because it has no past form. You can rephrase the sentence and use it with other modal verbs like should, could, should rather. Okay, you can use it. The other thing here in the last sentence, living in such crowded conditions must be difficult. ये उस तरह का sentence है जो आप जो हम हमेशा कहते हैं where I understand it, I understand you must be going through a difficult time. When we know that a person is kind of suffering or is going through a very hard time in life, you can say that, I understand you must be going through a difficult time. So this is kind of a logical certainty where you understand the situation a person is going through. It basically means I am sure it is difficult, whatever you are going through. That's the example given here. Okay. So must is often used when the obligation comes from the speaker, the person who is saying this. Okay. When the obligation comes from somewhere else, it should be have to. So that's the difference. When I'm the speaker and the obligation is from me, use must. When the obligation is from somewhere else, you use have to. Okay.
Yes, sir. One question. The must here used to a noun.
Modal verb here in this case. Must be difficult. Must be difficult. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Next one. Krishna, go ahead. Read the next slide.
Yes, sir. Out to go. Out to. It expresses moral obligation or desirability. Example, we ought to love our neighbors. Ought to can also be used to express probability. Prices ought to come down soon. Need. The auxiliary need denoting necessity or obligation can be conjugated with or without do. Example, he needs to go, meaning it is not necessary for him to go. Need I write to him? Do I need to go? Dare. It is generally used in negative and interrogative sentences. He dare not take such a step.
Good. So ought to, when you say moral obligation, it can also mean from the society's point of view. Like, for example, you ought to follow the rules, So if I have a choice between, it's like should, but if I have a choice about the society's point of view, I mean something that is a rule, something that is a moral obligation, then it's better to use ought to. It can also be used to give advice, like, you ought to complete the task by Monday, for example, or you have to complete the task by Monday. Both mean the same. What I mean is, if there is a choice between should and ought to, you ought to follow the rules and you should follow the rules. Both the sentences are grammatically correct. The preferred choice is ought to. Why? Because here you are talking about what? A moral obligation from a society's point of view. So when that is the case, then prefer to use the moral verb ought to. You ought to avoid, you ought not to break the rules, or you ought to follow the rules, basically. So here I'm talking about the society's point of view as a moral obligation. That's when you use ought to. Need, auxiliary need denotes what? Need, we understand, denotes necessity, obligation. Can be used with or without do. He needs to go, meaning it is not necessary for him to go, but he wants to go. Need I write to him? Do I need to go? So need can be used in multiple ways. Either, he needs to go can mean what? Just give me a minute. Yeah, he needs to go का मतलब होता है कि it is not necessary for him to go. जरूरी नहीं है जाना, but he still wants to go. It's similar to that. And dare basically means generally used in negative and interrogative sentences. He dare not take such a step. मतलब इसका मतलब यह है कि he should not take such a step, but you are using it in terms of, like, looking at the consequences of what will happen if what will happen if the person takes that particular step. So it can be kind of used in a threatening kind of a way. You dare not raise your voice. Okay, when a teacher says this, or when someone tells you dare not raise this voice or your voice, or you dare not commit this mistake, or you dare not take such a step, मतलब मैं किसी को probably threaten कर रहा हूँ that if you do something, the result of this will be very bad. So dare can be used in such a way. Okay, that's it. So ought to, need, and dare. All right, let's continue. Quickly complete the task. Okay, Karthik, go ahead, read the next sentence.
Sir, I don't think I shall be able to go.
I don't think I shall be able to go. The two obviously are incorrect here. It can either be I don't think I can go, or I shall be able to go. Okay, Dipali, go ahead, read the next one.
You light a match. You light first one, sir. You mustn't light matches. The room is full of gas.
You mustn't light a match. The room is full of gas. Matlab, jalao mat, otherwise, don't light a matchbox, basically. Don't light a match, otherwise the room will be set to fire. It'll get ablaze, basically. So don't light a match. You mustn't light a match. The room is full of gas, to avoid tragedy. The other Dipali, go ahead, read the next one.
The Prime Minister is to make a statement tomorrow.
इसका मतलब क्या है सेंटेंस का?
प्राइम मिनिस्टर एक स्टेटमेंट कल बताएंगे.
Is to, ये जो हुआ है एक थोड़े सर्टेनिटी के साथ यूज करते हैं. मतलब this is like a surety that the Prime Minister will make a statement tomorrow. की जगह पर I am sure about the fact that he's going to make a statement tomorrow. So is to make a statement tomorrow. ये किसी context में कहा गया sentence होता है. Like for example, let's say he is to visit the school tomorrow. Hence we must be prepared. Or the Prime Minister is to make a statement tomorrow. Please ensure that your security measures are in place. So ये किसी context में कहा गया है कि ये event जो है वो होने वाली है. आप जो है उस कुछ चीजों का ख्याल रखिएगा. So you can use is to with a certain degree of authority and certainty that this is going to happen tomorrow. This will take place tomorrow. Ensure that the other matters are taken care of. That's why. Okay.
Sir, is this a simple present tense?
Yes. That's correct.
For scheduled events, we use simple present.
That's why it is a simple present tense. This is a simple present tense. Is to make a statement tomorrow. This is a scheduled event. You are right, absolutely right. That's why it's used in the present context. Yes, rather than saying will be making a statement tomorrow. Okay. All right, Ajanta, go ahead. Read the next one.
You dash for me, I could have find the way all right. You needn't have waited for me.